I never knew I had an Uncle Abel until the night there came a knock at the door. I was about 5 years of age, wrapped warmly in my pyjamas and ready for bed, and I distinctly remember the heavy pounding of knuckles upon the door that rattled the hinges. It was the night of the winter solstice, when darkness fell before 5 p.m, and a cold wind blew sleet in from the mountains. My father rose from his chair to answer the caller and, opening the door, I saw the silhouette of a tall man standing there. He was fully a head and shoulders taller than my father and wearing a long coat and wide-brimmed hat that dripped runnels of icy cold water. It seemed to me that the two men knew each other, though the greeting was rather mute, and the tall man stepped inside to place his coat and hat upon the stand. My father introduced my mother and myself as I peered out from behind her apron, which I held tightly clenched in both hands. It was the only time he looked at me as he passed us by, ushered by my father over to the dining table. I remember his eyes were grey and cold as steel, looking down from between long curls of jet black hair that dripped and hung like vines. His stare pierced me to the marrow, so that I could not move until he had released me, and my mother prized my fists from her apron, saying that she would put on a pot of tea after she had seen me to my bed. After falling asleep, I was woken some time later by the sound of raised voices coming from the lounge, and though I listened intently, I could not make out the words through the muffled effect of the wall. It seemed that my father and Uncle Abel were in some dispute, and shortly after I heard the sound of heavy footsteps and the slamming of the front door. Slipping from my bed, I quietly squeezed myself between the heavy drapes at my window to see the tall dark figure of Uncle Abel striding down the path. Before he got to the gate, he stopped, and for a moment I thought he was about to turn around. Instead, his head tilted slightly, as if he sensed my watching him, and then he continued on, disappearing into the night as mysteriously as he had come. In the morning I asked of the whereabouts of Uncle Abel, and was told he had to leave suddenly. That was the last I saw or ever heard of my forgotten uncle, for he was never mentioned again. On the odd occasion that I would inquire about him, I was met with apathetic replies, subject changes, or disapproving frowns. Sometimes, at family gatherings, and particularly funerals, I would catch his name whispered in some corner of the room, and I would steel myself closer to silently eavesdrop upon the conversation. But the grim faces of those who overheard would turn and glare at the utterers of such conversation, and so his name was quickly dropped from their tongues. Then on my 18th birthday I received a package by delivery. It was a strange package, wrapped in old crumpled brown paper and tied with worn knotted string, and yet the handwriting of my name and address was so exquisite and beautifully made with what seemed to be a quill and ink. I did not recognise the postmark from whence the parcel had been sent, but the look upon my father's face as he stared at it turned from concern to anger, and he forbade me to open the package. But I was 18 now, and there was little he could do except watch with consternation as I hastily pulled at the string. My fervour was met with resistance, as the string was well knotted, such that I could not untie it, and I asked for scissors. Reluctantly my father produced a small pair of nail clippers from his pocket, and taking them I severed the string and now carefully peeled away the layers of paper. Inside was revealed a small wooden box, beautifully carved with strange, otherworldly designs, evoking lore that may have existed long ago. Seeing it, my father let out a small whimper, and my mother turned away. Turning a small latch, the lid was freed, and I opened the box to see inside little more than a key, a coin, and a small notebook.